because everybody else has to keep going live because someone shuts off the comments when the feed starts going too strong, right? You've seen that before, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Haven't you been watching anyone else ever? And the feed starts going really well, far beyond what somebody with their, minuscule numbers should have. And suddenly the comment section gets shut off. Hmm. Hmm. That doesn't sound weird at all.
Now, I will say, I don't watch any live feeds where they talk about anything serious.
True.
It's just.
Well, no, I mean, you watch your buddy Ty.
I don't watch him. I occasionally have. Like,
Okay, but you have watched him. And it's never happened. But hey, everybody, maybe you should listen to the guy that calls himself PCP Addict and supports pedos. That sounds like a guy everybody should listen to. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. How's that work? Ooh, that sucks. Ask yourself the questions, guys. Ask yourself the questions. If I'm wrong, like, do you think if I was on here making videos every day about how great unicorns are and how much the world needs love, love, sweet love, or if I was making a video about how bad Muslims are, do you think my video would be allowed to, if I was a bald, fat, white guy with a beard talking about America, 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 Trump, America, Muslims are bad, bet I'd be allowed to have a lot more viewers than I do. But trying to figure out why and what's the motivation and all that kind of shit. No, that's stupid. Got the Naomi profile, right? This dumb broad has supposedly, she's been here for like weeks. She hates me so much because she watches me every single day for hours on end because she's working really hard. Like, this is the shit that you need to ask yourself, people. Is this what you would do? All you normies out there? I literally, I can't even think of a situation where I would continuously watch, like daily, wouldn't miss it, and then watch for hours somebody I supposedly didn't like. I just, that is so insane to me. Like, even when I was watching the news and shit, it was information I was gathering. Watching the 700 Club. If that shit would have been a 2-3 hour show, you better believe I can't watch that. That's fucking ridiculous. But make it make sense to me. I please, can we just, like, on a real low level here, can somebody explain to me trolling? What that does for you, what you get out of that? Especially like I just, why anybody would troll the page. Like, if trolling, in my mind, from what I can tell, because again, I'm trying my best to understand things. Even when they don't make sense, I try to understand it. I guess it's to disrupt, right? The whole point of the troll is to disrupt. So you don't see the troll.
What? What's the point? I don't get it.
Well, but you have to keep saying.
What do you get out of that?
Again, the only thing I can imagine is that you get paid. getting paid to do it would make sense. If you're a dumb J or a pedo, you're gonna want people to stop talking about the truth behind your bullshit.
What an honorable job that is. I'm sick. You gotta be sick in the head to want to do that.
Right? Well, but I mean, or a J. But you think about it like from just a simple perspective of like, as foolish as I may be, right? Thinking that, going live and saying the things that I say, that might actually help the situation, right? I'm foolish. I'm just some weird guy in Michigan. Like, there's no way I'm ever going to be allowed to actually have an effect on things.
I mean, honestly, somebody that cleans the cum out of a peep show room is more useful than a troll. Like, you do more of a service.
Right. What do these guys do? As goofy as I am, and as delusional as I am, to then have people come in and tell me I should stop doing what I'm doing for what, I mean, I don't, if I'm not doing it, then what are you going to do? Your whole existence seems to be based on me. So if I'm not here, then what do you do with your life? But again, at the end of the day, you know that this page is all about cutting off miserable, ousting the J's from our control, and using the money that we save that we don't give them anymore, $3.8 billion a year, or well over $18 billion since October of last year. If we use that money to kill pedos, or whatever, like again, I would imagine the first year, all $3.8 billion could be used in setting up the program, setting up the offices, hiring the people, doing all that stuff. And making sure it's a really good job for people because they're doing such a good service. But after that first year, I can't really imagine that it's going to cost $3.8 billion to do every year. Plus, I mean, wouldn't it be someplace that like tons of people would be giving money to? If you knew that there was an actual organization out there that was hunting these pedos down and eliminating them, would you guys, like, I mean, I know life is hard for a lot of people, so they don't have money to give, but if you have money to give, wouldn't that be a great place to give money to? So after that first year, that $3.8 billion can now be used for something else, like fixing the roads, like veterans programs, for all these homeless fucking vets out there who lost their brain fighting for some, being duped into fighting for some America when it's really some Israeli cause, and now they're just forgotten, left out in the fucking cold and shit. Maybe we should make more programs for them. Maybe we should make some more drug programs for people. We should make some drug programs that don't involve church. So all those people that aren't religious can actually get the help they need without having to pay $20,000, $30,000. I mean, these I'm just spitballing here. These are just options. $3.8 billion is a shit ton of money. But this isn't stuff that these idiots want to talk about, right? The Naomis of the world, they get mad when you talk about stuff like this. Because why? I mean, why would anybody? Why isn't everybody sharing the feed of the guy that's saying, fuck yeah, we should be killing pedos? Liking, sharing, subbing. Why isn't that happening? Who are all you people? That's fucking crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I for the life of me, I can't understand what motivates people anymore. Nope, never been violated myself. Not religious. You know, no, not my children, none of that. Nobody's been violated like that. Yet, I don't need to have experienced something to be opposed to it. You know, although the whole Palestinian genocide doesn't directly affect me, it does affect me because it's my tax dollars being used to pay for this. You know, as this situation intensifies and grows and grows and grows because Israel keeps attacking Syrians and Lebanese and all these other people, there's a good chance that they're going to institute a draft again. Whenever shit has to do with Israel, that's when drafts come about. I mean, again, ask yourself why, instead of these same dumbass trolls saying, you know what, dude, you're right. The protecting our children is way more important than any. Again, I can't understand what they have against me to begin with, other than they're probably pedos. But, you know, you would think like there would be more real people here, you know, opposed to this. I can't imagine why anybody would be, you know, anything other than supportive to the person. Like, you could disagree with me about Jesus all day, sure, whatever. Don't you think that us stopping the children getting raped and violated, don't you think that's a little bit more important than your own personal bullshit, or do you not? I don't know. Personally, I don't. I don't think anything in my life is more important or worth your prayers than stopping the clergy, especially from violating children. And yet I give these daily audience members who just worship me, I give them the opportunity to show that they're actually decent people, that they're not pedos or pedo supporters or anything like that. And they don't. And they don't. Prayers aren't real. Well, prayers are real. There's just nobody listening to them. One piece of constantly.
If there's money attached to them,
yeah, God doesn't answer prayers. God answers tithing.
Let me help you. What happened 2 weeks before you found the lens?
It's just so fascinating to me. And I would imagine like there are a lot of intelligent people on here that do see that shit. And you have to wonder, at the very least, you have to wonder like what is going on? Where do these random fucking doofuses come out of the woodwork and they want to talk about everything but what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I could walk into any conversation and if I was like, hey, what are you guys talking about? And they were like, oh man, we're talking about how we can kill pedos. I'd be like, fuck yeah, how can I help? You know, oh well, you know, we're totally religious. We love Jesus all day long. We're kind of racist, but we focus on hunting black gay pedos. Fuck yeah, how can I help? That's going to be my response every time. I don't care what sort of prejudices you have. I don't care what sort of weird beliefs you might have. As long as your focus is let's kill pedos, I am down to help. And you'd think there'd be more people like that in the feed. Yet instead, it's a bunch of people who either identify as Jays or who are just mad at me.
You're Catholic, aren't you?
You know, when you understand that the Talmud says it's okay, it's not okay if we do it. If a Gentile does it, boy, we should be killed right away. But if a chosen rapes a child, as long as they're 3 years and 1 day old, that child now belongs to them. You know, if it's a girl, she's now kind of like a wife. She belongs to him now. And he has to pay the full dowry to the parents of that child. God busy balancing ratios, prayer rate, collection plate contributions. Exactly. I always think of it as God like has a big jar, you know, and it's got a line at the top, and it's like, when we get here, you know, sending Jesus back, and he's just sitting there looking at it like, almost. They just keep filling them up. Prayers and prayers.
I remember the first time I saw the collection plate, and I was like, why are people putting money in it?
I doubt you remember the first time you saw it. You're talking about the first time it dawned on you.
I was aware of it.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember asking, well, why does God need money? Because they said, you know, it's for the church. It's, you know, so they can keep doing these beautiful services. But why does God need money? Like, it just never, and then it just.
How much money, too? It's so much fucking money.
Then you start watching the parishioners, and they, can I see you later? And they start watching what each other's putting in, and it starts to become ugly.
A competition.
And as a kid, you're sitting there, and you see this ugly, and it's like, that's being associated with church. What's wrong with people? You don't notice this?
It's fucking insane. It wasn't
making it normal to me. It was making it yucky.
It is gross. It's disgusting. It's like it doesn't make sense. That's why you don't get any sort of answer to it.
This is after you walk in and you put the $1 in for your candle, and then you put another $1 in for something else, and then you get on your knees before you walk in, and then you get on your knees again. Like,
oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
It's definitely designed to make you feel little.
Right. Well, it's you know,
the servant. That's what it is.
The thing it's like, I understand why the people who didn't have any education, who, you know, had no concept of the world. I mean, you just didn't know. You lived in this town, you know, maybe a 30-mile radius as far as you ever traveled, maybe. I mean, 30 miles is a long way on foot or, you know, by horse and all that shit. Those are long travels. And to think like these people that, you know, as long as they're not a famous person, they died in their late 30s, early 40s. They didn't have any education. They didn't know any of these things. They didn't know blah, blah, blah. And they're told, you know, they have to work sun up to sundown 6 days a week. The only day that they're not required to do this, they get to go to the church where they get this show. You know, these really, like, you know, these actors with a lot of piss and vinegar and the fire and the brimstone and the da-da-da. And you're going, what the fuck? Why do I even have this life? This life sucks. I don't have the internet. I don't have lights. I don't have refrigerators. I got to work for it just sucks. This life sucks. You know, you watch old Tom and, you know why Tom and Jerry was such a big thing? Because everybody had mice in their house back then. It's not even a thing today. You don't even think about a mouse in the house today. But like, you know, all these narratives that we're given, that's it. You're just given narratives. And this whole thing with the Jesus stuff and all that, like, you literally have no reason to believe that shit. None. the only thing that happens when you ask people why they believe in God and Jesus is they get mad.
What do you mean you don't?
If you ask me if I believe in Jesus, or if you ask me why I don't believe in Jesus, what's the first thing that's going to happen, Ange?
Fucking pedophiles.
No, if you ask me, how am I going to respond? The first thing you're going to see is a smile come across my face. And I'm going to be like, oh, are you sure you want to do this? Because I don't have a problem talking about why I believe what I believe, or even what I actually believe. I just know you're going to have a problem hearing it. And I believe, I believe in what I'm saying. I'm proud of what I'm saying. Like, I'm proud of my anti-Semitism. I'm proud of my, my non-falling for any of that stupid religious crap. I'm proud that I don't fall for, voting. I'm proud of all that shit. I don't ever get mad if somebody asks me anything, ask me to elaborate or anything. And it's because I am so fucking educated on these things. Like, if you were to start asking me about how the stock market works, well, I'm going to be like, I don't really know. And, I'm not going to have nearly the confidence or, the knowledge. I'm just not going to be able to do it. You ask me, hey, how does a zoo operate?
I don't know.
Like a zookeeper, and I don't know, he hires people, and then they
have some vets.
They have to have vets. See, I wouldn't have thought about that right away, but like, I'm not going to be able to come at you on the zoo conversation. I don't think zoos should exist. I think zoos are horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Sanctuaries are one thing that can have visitors as long as it's done respectfully. But
to some degree, zoos are awful.
Zoos are awful.
Zoos are just awful
We
fucking.
have to have sanctuaries because we have so many horrible fucking people.
It's true. It's true. Because some people go, oh, is that made from a tooth from an animal that was slaughtered and then left to die so you could get its tooth? Ooh, I'll pay you good money for that. Here, this is a fake one sitting right next to it. Tell me which one's which. Oh, I can't.
And it had babies that needed its mother to survive that are now,
The whole elephant thing is it's just unfucking real.
So yeah, zoos are bad, but there's a need for sanctuaries. And I don't think that should be hidden from public, but it shouldn't be done in a zoo fashion where it can cause trauma and...
Anyway, when it comes to how it all works, I have no fucking idea. I really don't. I think it's awful, and I'm sure I could spend a few hours getting into it, but at the end of the day, if I want zoos to be... Well, if I want to get rid of zoos, I have to get rid of the chosen that control our narrative.
Well, think about the medical community. You can't go to your general practitioner for something that, oh no, we got to send you to a specialist for that. Oh, you have a problem with your kidney? Well, let's send you to an endocrinologist. You've got a problem with your feet? Let's send you to a podiatrist.
Right.
A doctor can't even address all of your doctor needs.
Right. Right. So when it comes to this particular thing, I can go forever. And I'm really proud of everything I'm saying. And it's because I believe it to be the truth.
Well, and you've done your research and your due diligence. That's
right, but it's really important that I believe what I'm saying to be true. Truth gives you confidence. You're not gonna
based on fact.
Right, but you're not
on opinion.
Right, you're not going to be able to tell a lie as convincingly. Like, I used to sell meat, right? I did the door-to-door meat. The guys that would pull up in the truck and I was supposed to deliver all these steaks to the restaurant, but we ordered a few too many, so my boss said I could just go off them real quick. You have any interest in these high-quality restaurants, quality steaks? They're not. I was one of the best at it. And then one day, because we always used to take food home, like we always did it. But one day, I took home a box of those burgers. And we had a feast. Got real fucking hammered. Ate a bunch of burgers. And the next day, I was sicker than I'd ever been in my life. Probably had E. coli. It was the middle of June or July in San Diego, and I'm sitting in my house with like 4 layers of clothes on underneath blanket, shivering for.
Oh yeah, you could have died.
Oh, I'm sure I was close to death. You know? Makes me wonder if my lifestyle isn't what kept me fucking alive. You know? But I was sick for like 2 weeks. And I was so good at my job.
Alcohol.
Right.
Because had you not, you would have had nothing killing bacteria in your body.
Right.
And alcohol was doing that at least.
But I was so good at my job that I called my boss to be like, hey, I'm sick, I'm not coming in. And he was like, what? All of us don't feel good. And blah, you don't see me. And I was just like, click, I hung up on him. And he called me back and he was like, oh, okay, man. You just take as much time as you need and you just let us know when you get better. You don't hang up on your boss and still have your job unless you're really good at it. But after that, you think I could sell that shit to people knowing they might be feeding their children? You know, I was a stud. I was a 20-something stud who fucking partied like a racehorse or partied like a fucking rock star all the time. Like I'm not some 7-year-old. I'm not some 87-year-old. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I tried going back to work and selling the shit, and I just couldn't sell it convincingly. Why? Because it wasn't true anymore to me. I did believe that it was good shit. I didn't know that they were just taking scraps and forming it into those steak shapes. I didn't know that. I thought there'd be some sort of regulations and shit, right? Your buddy, Kenny Bartholomew, I'm sure a lot of you know. If you're in that truther world, Kenny Bartholomew, he was the best meat salesman I ever saw. I knew him. The girl I was dating was friends with his cousin. And those two seemed like they hooked up. We used to think that way all the time, but I can't say that for sure, so I'm not going to. We just used to laugh all the time that they would fight like old married people. But I knew Kenny Bartholomew back in the early 2000s. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, that dude was the best fucking door-to-door meat salesman I ever saw in my life. Why? Because he's a great liar. And long after I got sick, told him all, long after I'm sure he got sick at least once, that dude continued to sell meat. Why? For his own personal benefit. Because that's the type of person he is. And so again, when it comes to Israel and the Jays and all that kind of bullshit, when it comes to religion, when it comes to politics, when it comes to all of this stuff, I'm extremely confident because I'm telling the truth. I'm selling the truth. And when I don't know the answer, I'm not some stupid coward who pretends like I do. And so apply that same thing to the comment section. And understand that that if these people had any sort of confidence that they were right or that I was wrong, they would be able to do what they do a lot better. The fact that they have to resort to such dumb, childish nonsense, they're trying to sell meat they don't believe in. And really, I mean, again, I don't care what your job is. If your job title is to harass people doing their very best to make sure pedos get killed, are you going to be able to do your job well? I mean, don't you agree that they should be killed? I think it's again, it's really obvious when you look at what I consistently say and how I've told you guys repeatedly. My mission statement, my goal in life is to cut off Israel and remove the J's while using that $3.8 billion, that's actually 15 billion shekels, to eliminate pedos. If you oppose me, then I guess you oppose that. And so the real question then comes back to you. Why do you oppose killing pedos? Why do you think we should continue to give Israel all of our money? You know, it's simple. Like, you guys can seemingly comment on everything I say, right? So I'm flat out asking you guys why you don't oppose pedos and why you think we should continue giving Israel money. Can anybody answer that? Is anybody going to try? I mean, you focus on certain things that I say. So I'm trying to sit here and ask you guys flat out questions. I mean, I'm left to assume, all of us are left to assume, that if you don't say, I absolutely do think we should kill pedos, and I do think, then if you don't say those things, and you say any other stupid ass shit like new topic, blah, 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 trying to get the topic to change, well, then I'm left to assume that you're a pedo. And you're probably Israeli. But you can't do that, right? Isn't that weird? Look at all these people that are like outing themselves. They're proudly outing themselves. They're not going to actually say, I'm a pedo, but they are. Right now, at this point, if you're saying anything other than, hell yeah, let's kill the pedos, you support pedos, man. That's literally like the little stipulation I'm making right now. All of you that have already commented and continue to comment and come here every single day, this is your chance. Are you going to prove to anybody that you're not a pedo? Isn't this interesting? Look at all these people. Like, I wish they were here, standing in front of me, so I could be like, all right, if you don't say we should kill pedos, I'm going to hit you in the face. And we just get to see how many people sit here and still have some smart ass comment to say. This isn't for me. They're not doing what they're doing for me, you guys. They're doing it for you guys. They're doing it to show you that Israel can do what it wants, and they don't have any sort of repercussions. And yeah, we can be pedos if we want to, so what? That's what they're doing. That's what their commenting is right now. So anybody that's watching me that might be new here or whatever and sort of like on the fence, what the fuck's going on here? What's this guy talking about? I'm not mincing my words. You know, I'm not hiding my intention, nothing. I'm flat out saying XYZ. And what's your response to that? And all of these people are basically acknowledging that they are Israeli pedos.
Consumer Cellular is lowering the price for those 50 and up. Get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. That's just $60 a month.
He's a little too obsessed with the topic. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm too obsessed with us eliminating pedos. Who says that? What decent person says that? You know, you could go anywhere in the world. You could be you could be watching porn. Like I always say, this is your ticket to free porn. If you're my age and you know what it's like to had to come across videotapes and magazines and shit before, and now you just have access to porn anytime that you want it, it's amazing. You could be watching porn, and instead you're here not supporting killing pedos. That is fucking strange. How many times are you gonna repeat yourself? We get the point, huh? Many times as I fucking feel like it on my feed. I just love it because people always ask me for evidence, right? What's your proof? Where's your evidence? What's your proof? Like, I'm going to pull out a piece of paper that's like, well, this is a list of names of all the people that are pedos that have a bot page or whatever that is trying to interfere with my page and trying to get other people to stop looking. And look, they've all signed it saying they agree to it. See? I'm never going to have that. So if you think the reason why I address this the way I do is because there are people that think I might be wrong about some of these things. And so as much evidence as I put forth, it's still not working. And I shouldn't even have to put it forth. Like, it's everywhere. It should be really obvious that the pedo problem is huge in this country, in the world. But, I'm putting it out here. Oh, this fucking commercial. I hate this commercial. But the fact that I have all of these people here trying to do this desperate attempt at shutting me down, you have to ask yourself why. Does this make sense? Do you see this on other feeds? Do you see all these random trolls that have nothing else going on in their lives that just come here to support pedophilia, I guess? I don't know. All of the dumb shit that gets said. Just ask why. I'm much more speaking to the real people that are quiet and maybe on the fence or whatever. That are really looking, and they're intelligent, so they need some sort of proof before they change their mind or whatever. This is it. This is that evidence. And I'm going to break it down to the most minute point I can, just so there's no confusion. People like to misconstrue things. I start talking about Semitism, people start talking about Semitic. Who the hell is on the fence about pedos? A lot of people, apparently. There's a lot of people on here that have every opportunity to say, hell yeah, how do we work together to stop these pedos? How do we do this? Instead, they want me to stop. So ask yourself who that is. crazy. It's crazy. If I'm sliding through the web, man, and I happen upon somebody that's talking about we need to cut off Israel and do everything we can to eliminate the pedos, I'm gonna share that shit. They could be talking Jesus all day long, and I'm still gonna share that shit. They wouldn't be, because, you know, once you get to that point, you have to realize, like if you oppose them, if you oppose the Jays, then you really understand. My granddad worked on a submarine. Everybody's did. Granddad or uncle. And they sat down and told you the inner workings of everything. Again, ask yourself why, when given the opportunity to say, how do we fix this? How do we unify to eliminate these pedos? People want to talk about submarines. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Where's my water? I got to go downstairs in the basement. We have 2 basements. Well, my mom's house does. And then I'm going to get my alcohol, because we all know I just drink all day. What? All day long, vodka. While smoking meth and crack.
Man, all that takes a lot of money.
Well, I'm selling drugs. Sell a lot of drugs.
That's not very smart.
Well, gotta pay for it. Gotta pay it somehow. Repent, says some idiot.
For what?
Oh, Jesus.
And let's scrutinize your life.
Well, to me, like,
sinner.
If I were to actually die and be like, blink, blink, holy shit, I'm Jesus. I didn't think you were real. I can't imagine Jesus would be like, yeah, well.
Yeah, bitch, and since you didn't believe in me.
Right. I know you were a good person who tried everything you could to eliminate pedos, and you basically said all the same shit I supposedly said. Because you didn't give money to that pedo organization that represents me and has me as their mascot, as a guy up on a, my crucifixion.
Oh, that's just the
That's
Catholics.
it. You're going to hell. Yeah.
Just the Catholics.
They're all Catholics.
Celebrate his death.
They're all
They
Catholics.
realize it or not.
Right. You're all Catholics. It's fucking stupid. And really, I mean, Christianity, Catholicism comes from Second Temple Jayism. So,
The people that kill
Jesus didn't say to kill people. You're right. Jesus didn't say anything because Jesus wasn't real. And if Jesus is a guy who didn't say kill pedos, then he doesn't get my vote. Like, it's just so stupid how everybody acts like this is no big deal. This is the biggest fucking deal. It's hard to say that. I mean, if you see the videos that are coming out of Palestine, because those videos don't exist coming out of Ukraine for some strange reason. But the videos coming out of Palestine, not out of Israel again for some strange reason. The videos coming out of Palestine, if you can see that shit and you don't have any feelings towards it, like, That's just shocking. I don't understand. I don't understand. You know, I can't for the life of me imagine why anybody supports whoever is doing that. Like, you have to be a pretty sick motherfucker to support that. Well, 1,100 people, around 1,100 people. What about the around 1,100 people that were killed in Israel on October 7th? Just so everybody knows, no Israelis were killed on October 7th, and no Israelis were taken hostage. It's all bullshit. You know, these are narratives that, you know, it's funny. It's like I keep telling myself I'm gonna do the expose on Ghislaine. I'm gonna look into the past narrative that is given to me. And I just can't do it because I'm too busy talking about right now. You know, right now and what's happening right now that I can see and touch and experience myself. You know, I literally, I do my very best to try to understand, to try to make it seem like it's not Israel and Team Jorge and whatnot that's interfering with me. I try to think about it's just regular people, but I just can't do it. And as much as I ask, you know, can you just explain to me like what you guys get out of how does this work? How does getting called a pedo satisfy anything for you? And nobody ever has anything to say. Palestine was giving a lot of freedom the past year for sure. Oh, sure they were. Like, just sick people, sick fucking people say shit like that.
You mean when they didn't have electricity between certain hours because it was shut off on them, or they're running water, or the ability
bombs
to get on a boat and go somewhere, or on a plane and go see relatives in another country? You mean like all those?
What about all the videos that show the Jays that chartered boats so they could watch?
They could watch. Yeah.
As whenever there was like a big military offensive was scheduled, where they were going to drop a bunch of bombs on people or whatever, they would charter boats so they could watch it, and every time there was a big explosion, they would cheer. What about that shit? That's there's more than one of those videos. Like, think about how disgusting
you'd have to be that person.
Right.
That's fucking sick.
That's who they are.
Those are not fireworks. Those are people dying and being their bodies torn apart. Oh my God.
Even children. It's mostly women and children because Israel's already kidnapped and
if it's a man's body,
it doesn't matter. You're right. A life is a life.
Fucking
but
sick.
Children. We're talking about little children. You know, it's just horrendous what these sickos are capable of. But like, it's like you don't want to talk about the reality of it. These people cut and suck on baby penises. They have parties so they can watch somebody do that to their relative. The women have to go to a special bath, like old nasty water that's like, it doesn't drain. I mean, like how old this water is, I'm not even sure. But they have to go, and they every time they menstruate, they have to go get into this water and get themselves cleaned inside and out so they can run home and their husband will have sex with them. Like, this is a ridiculous cult. We're talking about a cult. in any other circumstances, you're gonna call it a cult. But you guys are like, you've just been all brainwashed into believing you're not allowed to even talk about them. And like I say, look at the stupid comments. It's not like people are coming at me with any sort of intelligent, well, actually, I think you got this wrong, or nothing. It's just people over and over again, like freaking out. You shouldn't be saying those things. You're bad, you're this, you're that. Repent. Just amazing. How often do you see that? How often do you see somebody that they're talking about anything, and in the comments, it's not like, they're not talking at all about what the person's talking about. I could be saying nothing, and their comments would be just as relevant. And yet, again, who's going to do that? It's the same people that don't say, hell no, we need to kill pedos, It's why Hollywood is so full of pedos. It's why the California law has like the shortest statute of limitations, and like,
most leniency
greatly for any sort of pedo stuff.
Yep.
Why do you think that is? It just happens to be that way in California, of all places.
Hey, isn't what is it? Hollywood in California? Wait, isn't that where they do all the movies and all the actors go?
Well, who controls Hollywood? Hollywood is like you hear this narrative all the time, like Hollywood is a person. Oh yeah, Hollywood used to be really, really racist and really, really sexist.
But now he's come around.
Right, that Hollywood sure has come around. Look at how Hollywood has just changed his mind about things. Instead of understanding like they control Hollywood proudly. They the whole casting couch thing is them. There's an old Shirley Temple video where she was interviewed by Larry King. It's just a disgusting piece of shit was. And she's talking about how, because most people just don't understand. Hollywood is just like sports teams. It's the same thing. The same people control Hollywood. They control sports. They control the government. And it all works the same way. It's divided up into teams. And each team has its players. So in Hollywood, it's the same way. All the studios, they sign each actor to deals. And that actor belongs to that studio. And when somebody from a different studio wants to use an actor from another studio, then the J's at the top have to be compensated, and they work out a trade of some sort, right? And so they wanted Shirley Temple for the role of Dorothy. But MGM owned the rights to that movie, and Shirley belonged to Paramount or something. I don't know what she belonged to. But she said she's telling Larry King this story, and Larry's just like licking his lips and shit. Larry's just he's not appalled by the story. He thinks it's funny mostly. You can hear him laughing throughout the story most of the time. And even she sort of like checks him at one point, like, and well, it's not that funny actually, blah blah blah. But she tells the story that her and her mom were summoned to the MGM studio head offices to talk about the negotiations for the trade and whatnot, and to talk about this movie. And her mother was taken into one room and she was taken into another. And so it was MGM, so it's Metro, Goldwyn, and Mayer, right? And I think she said she went into Mayer's office and her mom might have went into Goldwyn's or something like that. Her mom went into the higher of the three. So maybe Metro, I don't know. But she said she walked in and the door closed behind her and it was kind of like the room was all black with like a spotlight sort of coming down on the chair. And she said he slowly turned around and as he did, he was naked. He was this old naked man, this little old J naked man. And she said she started laughing. Like it was just, she said she hadn't seen any, she had never been in that sort of situation before. And she was just, she just nervously started laughing. Well, thankfully, that's what she did. Because if she would have shown fear, that's what he was looking for. That's what he fed off of, is that fear. When she started laughing, that didn't give him the reaction he wanted.
That made him mad.
It did. It made him all mad, and he got mad and threw her out. And she was like, I don't know what the fuck was going on. And she was young. She was like 12 or 14 or something. And again, the whole time Larry's like, yeah, And she said she then sat out there and she waited, and her mom, it was another like 20 minutes before her mom finally came out. She said when her mom came out, they didn't say a word to each other. She just got up, they held hands, and they walked out. And they were silent for a while in the car ride, till suddenly she broke down and told her mother what happened. And her mother said, well, at least you got out of there.
We'll never speak of this again.
And that was that. And that was the end of it. And Larry was one of those great Hollywood stories. Like, because Larry knew. Larry knows those fucking people. Those rumors don't exist for nothing. There's no other culture on the planet is known as poisoning wells. As putting poison into the wells, the drinking water, poisoning the drinking water of communities. Only one group of people is known to do that. And they've been known to do that throughout all of history. Why do you think that is? Who do you think puts fluoride in our water now? Who do you think's in charge of that shit now? They literally poison the well. It's insane. It's insane. And of course, you have a bunch of normal people, I guess, in the comments thinking it's funny and making jokes and shit, because that's what you do when it comes to pedo stuff. You make jokes, right? I know I always make those pedo jokes, don't you, sweetheart?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the whole subject is hilarious to me.
Hilarious. Like if you saw somebody talking about it,
I would just start laughing.
you would go on their feed and start talking shit and making, like, right? Oh my God, that's totally normal. Think about that shit, man. Like the fact that it exists. Why do we have a situation where Hollywood is well known to be the casting couch Hollywood? Why is that what it is?
It shouldn't exist.
Right. It's just stupid. None of us want that to happen to anybody we love, right? You found out your sister, your child, your whoever, your family member was assaulted on the casting couch. Would you be like, well, that's okay, I mean, well, we got to get movies somehow. There's no other way we could ever get movies. There's absolutely...
Otherwise, there'd be all kinds of child actors.
Right.
That's the way you separate.
That's
the
how
good
we
ones.
separate the good ones, right?
If they can act their way through that, they can be good enough for us.
If they can act like nothing happened to them,
That's the ultimate test.
right? Well, you have to be. Maybe that is something to it, right? Because that way they know, like, literally who will be able to act their way through it.
Yeah.
That's some pretty fucked up shit, man. You're watching, like, share, and sub. Don't forget to do that shit. It helps out. That's what they say. So, I mean, if you don't support killing pedos and freedom from the J slavery, then you probably shouldn't.
The fragrance collection. Consumer Cellular ranked #1 in network coverage and customer satisfaction.
Then just go ahead and dislike the video, right? Either way. Stand for something. I just can't understand. Like, I can't understand how anybody doesn't think about this shit. You're obsessed. You think about it too much. How do you not? How do you have yourself so insulated that you don't see any of the Palestine videos? You know nothing about the casting couch. You know nothing about the Franklin cover-up. The 80s version of Pizzagate. Like, you guys remember how Trump shut down your Pizzagate, right? That shit was really, really going well. And the Trump people just shut it down. If the government wants things to shut down, they do. If the government wanted the pedo thing to shut down, it would. I mean, it's... Why isn't everyone that has any sort of accusation made against them in those positions investigated?
Well, P. Diddy.
Right. How does Diddy exist for as long as he did? Well, I know how. So all of you distracted by Diddy, you make me sick. Really.
But P. Diddy.
Diddy did nothing that they haven't been doing for decades.
Hey,
Diddy was...
I am for exposing anybody that does.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But Diddy was given his position so that when we got too close, they could give us a Diddy and say, look, oh, you're right. Yep, there are bad things.
Ultimate bad guy.
Ultimate bad guy, and we're going to bust him for you. Look at that. Black guy, of course. Another black guy. You know, don't you remember? Kanye came out and told you to focus on black guys. The ruse was that Kanye was going to talk, he's going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jays and blah, blah, blah. But when Kanye started naming names and talking bad about people, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Jay-Z, Beyonce, just black people. When the Epstein, quote, list was released, and by list, I guess that's thousands of random pieces of paper, you know, in no real order, no actual list of anything. But when the Epstein list was released, and people started to be like, hey, what the fuck? This isn't okay, blah, 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 blah. Well, out came Cat Williams, another black guy. What'd Cat Williams tell you to do? Steve Harvey, and, you know, I don't even remember. I know it was a bunch of black guys. He did mention a couple of J's, though. He didn't mention Epstein and Weinstein.
Oh, wait, but wasn't it their list? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, you get Diddy. All of a sudden, Diddy's the guy that's been doing this, huh?
Single-handedly.
Diddy's the guy that's been violating people for all these decades.
Decades. How old is he?
48, 49, 50 something, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that time frame fits. Because that casting couch moniker only came about in the last 30 years.
Right. I mean,
30 years takes us to 94, just to give you,
Right.
30 years isn't the 70s.
Right. Feels like it, but it's not. Yeah, no. If you're distracted by Diddy, I mean, it's like, see,
He's a patsy. I mean, yes, he's guilty and he
right.
should be punished.
That's the brilliance of what
You
they
know,
do,
that-
though. That's like when they call things anti-Semitism, right? Because they're telling you the truth. They're making like, so in 2021 they had hearings, legislation, however you go about changing the spelling of a word. You ever heard that before? You ever heard about a word existing for 140 years and suddenly the spelling needed to be changed?
No, but I've seen it.
What? Think it. Tell me an example, please. I'm not being a dick. I want to know.
Well, I think a lot of times it's because it's a regional derivative, like.
I mean, shit like mongoloid, right? They used to call retarded kids mongoloids, which is offensive to Mongolians.
Well, sometimes something will be spelled with a C or a K, stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's when we're talking about like old timey. You read like something from the 30s or whatever, and they put an E on something where they shouldn't, or I'm not saying like that. I'm saying in today's modern society, tell me about another word that got changed. The spelling of it got changed. So in 2021, they decided for reasons, and I'll get to that anti-Semitism should no longer be ANTI hyphen capital SEMITISM. Understand that it was first coined in like the 1880s.
Okay, well, you're talking to humans who inherently are not typically good spellers.
Right.
So a lot of them probably didn't even know that's how it was spelled.
Okay, even still, understand that all of the legislation, the history books, the documents, everything regarding anti-Semitism for roughly 140 years, from the 1880s when it was first coined as a term to oppose the J supremacy that was existing in Germany at the time. Right? The 140, and eventually they took it over and then made it into their own conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory is a phrase that was created by the CIA to stop people from talking about the Kennedy assassination. They created this negative term, like a hippie. The hippie was created to go against, because at the time, the intellectuals were against the war. The intellectuals and all the people who had grown up in the households of World War II dads and World War I dads and grandfathers and shit, and just how fucked up those guys came back and nobody gave a shit about them. So to then go into the Vietnam War, we wanted nothing to do with it. And they desperately needed something to sway the population, because again, it was it wasn't just the losers. It was intelligent people. It was high-ranking people that were like, no, war's terrible. We don't need to go into war. So they had one of their think tanks, and Irving was like, what if we take all of the things that we don't like about somebody and make that who is against the war? Irving, you're brilliant. And so they wrote it out, What do we want men? What do we want for our men? Men should have short hair. So the hippie is going to have long hair. Clean shaved. We want clean shaved. Hippie has a beard or stubble. We want muted colors, army colors. Hippie's going to be all colors and flowers and shit like that. And they created this caricature of that represented what they, pot smoking peace hippie man. And then they set out to create that narrative. Don't you ever wonder how all these protest bands, all these bands from back then that made all this music that was against the government and all, how did they get such lucrative record contracts? Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Crosby is like one of those old blood rich family Crosby members. Stills and Nash, both of their dads worked in the government mind control division of the military. Jim Morrison's dad was the admiral of the ship that was used in the Gulf of Tonkin, now well-known false flag event. That was Jim Morrison's dad. There's something called the Laurel Canyon conspiracy. And apparently Laurel Canyon had all the same capabilities, if not more, than Hollywood. And that's where a ton of these actors and a ton of these musicians, they all come out of this small area where it was basically all a military operation, and they had a military Hollywood where they made all the movies and shit that they needed to make. It's all documented. You can find it. Whether you choose to believe it or not, I guess that's on you. But you have to understand that, like, it's like in the 80s, right? In the 80s, black people, the separation that they had done for years. So what we don't really understand nowadays is that, like, basically up until, it's still that way to this day. Like, there's radio stations here in Detroit. One of the biggest radio stations is called 89X. It's the alternative, blah, 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 the alternative rock station. Yet, they play Eminem, they play Kid Rock. They don't play a whole bunch of black artists. They don't play a bunch of black rock artists and whatnot. They might. There's a few that get played. But it's generally just white guy music, and they definitely don't play any black rappers on those stations, whether they're from Detroit or not. They still don't play them. You don't hear Big Sean on 89X.
Now, 89X is out of Canada.
Yeah.
There's that too.
Well, but they're all Dell Media, whatever, the conglomerate at this point. But, like, at the same time, the black stations, they play Eminem because he's from Detroit and he has the street. They don't play Kid Rock music.
Well, they play Eminem because he's a fucking legend.
Right, but as far as rap songs, they don't play white guy rap music.
No, they don't. They're not playing Kid Rock.
Right. It's still very racist, but it used to be a lot worse, right? It used to be, hang on a second. It used to be, I had to fix the comments. It used to be a lot worse. And that, like, black people growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they had no idea what music white people listened to. And vice versa. There might have been a few crossover acts here and there, but, like, even if you go watch early BET, you're a white guy, you're probably not going to know 60, 70% of the bands, the groups that get played on there. And instead of playing more black music, they just made BET. Eminem or MTV was like, nah, we're not going to do that. We'll just make another one. Michael Jackson was the first.
They were very afraid of ostracizing their fans, which was a white base. And there were still so many racists.
But see, they were dead wrong. Rap wouldn't be nearly as big if white kids didn't like it. They were just dead wrong. It's because the Jays think differently than, like I'm telling you, it's the same thing as posting the pictures of the war, thinking that's going to make us want more war. They think we can't play black music for white kids because those white kids just won't like it. It's black kids. It's black music. We don't like any other music that's not ours, so why would they like anything like that? And they were just fucking dead wrong.
Not totally sure my principles make all that much sense.
But they had it had backfired, right? The idea of blacks, like the Cosby Show and the Different World and all these this idea of black identity, and Malcolm X comes out, and you know, this whole thing about, I think if it would have been allowed to continue, more people would have gone in the direction that I'm at now, where I don't believe in slavery. I don't think that that's what happened. The narrative we're given as far as slavery is concerned, I just don't buy it. But I think, you know, and maybe that's actually what was happening, because I know that it's impossible, right? It's impossible that more and more people are looking into something and only coming to certain conclusions. But the black unity stuff started to be too big. And on 8/8/88, the greatest boy band that they ever created dropped the Niggas with Attitude album. 8/8/88. I'm sure that's just coincidence. Infinity, 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 infinity. They dropped that album, and it just completely changed the landscape. At the same time, a little bit later, but they you know, white music used to be all about rock and roll, get drunk, you know, smoke some pot, maybe do some coke, but it was much more about drinking and just having fun and just partying, doing girls and just having a good time. You know, bashing up a hotel room here and there. Which is, again, stupid shit. Like that's how they've programmed us, right? We've been watching movies for years where if you go to a guy's house, you're not supposed to be respectful. You're supposed to fuck shit up. Who does that shit? How do you go to somebody's house and not care and break their shit? Like, especially if it's a kid and, you know, it's their parents' stuff, you motherfucker. Like, we're just. But again, we're the type that if somebody passes out early, we gotta fuck with them. You know. Hey, you know what'd be really funny? All of us heterosexual males. Here, I'm gonna put my balls on their forehead, and you take a picture. Won't that be funny and not gay at all? But they at the same time they did the whole gangster rap thing, they also brought in heroin music. You know, the grunge thing happened. And it went from, hey, let's party, let's have a good time, let's get a little crazy, to I just want to kill myself. I want to kill myself. I want to do heroin and kill myself. And they gave that to us. And that's just how the narrative, you know, that's all they have to do is just change it up. They just, you know, flip things around a little bit, and we just go, okay, oh, that's different. Oh, that's new. As far as the whole slavery thing goes, if I say I don't believe in slavery, you know who's gonna get madder at me than anyone else? Black people. If I say I don't believe in the Native American genocide, you know who's gonna get madder at me than anyone else? The Native Americans. They've tricked you into thinking like that you want to believe that a small group of white people just overtook your people. That the Native Americans were so stupid that they just kept making deals with white people that reneged on deals over and over again. History makes black people and Native American people seem like really stupid, inferior, you know, go-alongs. You know? Instead of proud people, like there's only one narrative of black slaves revolting. And even that one is a fucking, you know, it has a happy ending. You know, one plantation, you know, however many, 50, 100 slaves, one white family. One day, slaves, fuck that. We're not going to do this anymore. And they kill the massa. And because they're black, and black people always know the words and all the same moves, apparently, according to the Jays that make movies. Like, it always reminds me of the Blues Brothers, right? That they just happen to go out in public and suddenly the black people are doing all the dance. They like a troop of black people just happen to be there doing a dance routine. That shit was such a common thing in the 80s. But the slaves, they go a marching to the next plantation, beating drums and dancing and shit. They get to the next plantation, they kill that master. All those slaves join together. Now, I never remember if it's on the way to the third one or after the third one on the way to the fourth one. But they're easy to find, I guess. And somehow the U.S. military is assembled and brought to this area. And as the black people are coming down the road, they see that the military is standing there with all their tanks and guns and shit. And they're like, hey, you Negroes, you need to go back to work. And the blacks go, okie dokie, massa, and go back to work. And that's the only story of revolt among slaves. In 2021, when the insurrection took place, or was it 2020? 2020? When the insurrection on the Capitol took place, I mean, they couldn't even, there was no troops to be seen. Assembling a bunch of troops, that's got to be a pretty difficult thing to do, because in modern times, we couldn't even do it to stop the people from breaking into the Capitol building and doing all the stuff they did that day. So it must be difficult, right? Yet back then in the 1600, whatever it was, yeah, well, the military was assembled and the slaves were scared, so they just turned around and went back. You believe that, huh? You know, the history that we have is white supremacy, is J supremacy. Everything that we're supposed to believe is basically that I mean, the narrative is that Columbus discovered America. He discovered a place people already lived at. Had buildings and shit, you know, well beyond what was possible. That's according to the narrative. That's if you believe the narrative. The problem being, once you start going down the Tartaria, the reset sort of mindset, and you start trying to answer the questions that the reset proposes or that the reset answers, and you understand that there seems like there was some sort of reset between 1750 and 1850, something like that. For me, everything that comes before that is probably bullshit. And really everything afterwards as well, because nobody talks about resets. Clearly there was a reset. Clearly there was something else that happened than what our history is telling us. The architecture, the evidence is everywhere. Everywhere. You can go in any fucking town you want, Drive around and you're going to find some old world structure that just don't make no sense.
It's almost always a church.
Yep. Unless you're in a city where they happen to have big cities. But see, there are old maps that exist that show the Americas with castles and shit all over there. Big, huge structures that don't exist in any other way. So why were they on these maps? Like, we don't know about them, but why do they exist? I mean, the whole notion of Tartaria. My wife has a real issue with it, but I mean, why would Tartaria be on a map if it wasn't a thing? If it's not worth just looking into, ask yourself why Tartaria was on the map, was such a big part of the world, big part of history, and you were never taught anything about it in school. That don't make no sense. I spent a month, at least, every single year in history class having the Holocaust narrative drilled into my head, just like you guys did if you're close to my age or older. I never heard one fucking mention of Tartaria or Caucasia. You ever heard of Caucasia? Or Caucasia, whatever, where Caucasians came from? We've all heard the term Caucasian, but I never knew there was a Caucasia. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of our history that seemingly survived and wasn't either destroyed or wasn't overwritten quite right or something. But it just does not match this notion of these poor Mayflower people on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The Pilgrims and the Pilgrim story is such stupid bullshit. You just don't realize how stupid it is. You know, the whole idea of the Pilgrims were this group of people that left the church. I mean, why would the church care? Say it's 100 people. So 100 people don't want it. Like, wasn't there thousands and thousands and millions of people back then? How did the church even keep track of that shit?
Because if you didn't give them money, they knew.
How would they know? There was no internet. There was no security cameras. There was no cars and planes.
Well,
And
they send people door to door. You give them money.
right. But if you broke off and you went somewhere that they didn't know where you went, how could they send anybody to you? The world's a big fucking place.
How would you survive? You need your little village of your shoe people. And
Apparently not. Those people can apparently fucking sail across the ocean and fucking make America. Remember? I mean,
yes, but collectively, not singly.
apparently,
They needed each other's skills.
apparently back then everyone was a polymath, and everybody could just do everything. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but if you look at the history we're given, if you look at the narrative we're given, that's pretty much how it worked. The Erie Canal, remember we were watching that thing about it? And it was just like some bankers decided that they wanted to build the Erie Canal and they needed some special new cement that could dry in the water, and so they just fucking made it. And these are bankers. They were also engineers, and they were also, you know, like it's like our history is so full of so much of that bullshit. And you know, remember, we live in a society where our president, you know, tells us to go to church and shit. We live in a society where church is taken seriously. But only certain church. Like, once you understand that and you go, wait, like that's the truth, then really, how are you arrogant enough to separate what's what? Isn't it just a lot safer to say it's all bullshit then? I mean, how can you arrogantly pick and choose which things that you're going to go with? You know, that's the problem with it all. You should be once the cracks start, it should shatter the illusion, but it doesn't seem to. People just, you know, like how it's amazing to me how many truthers believe in Jesus or vote. You know, how many truthers, how many people claim to be truthers, claim to hate, you know, the government. Biden's terrible, Obama's terrible, Bush is terrible, Clinton's terrible, everybody's terrible. But then Trump, how do you fall for that? What arrogant shit do you have going on that you go, no, I know that this bazillionaire, he's a good guy. And it's crazy because it's like, to me, I just think you're silly, you know. Oh, you're actually picking which hand they slap you with. You don't think you should pick no hand, no slap. You go, yeah, okay, I'm gonna be smart and I'll ask you, what are you left or right-handed? And they say, oh, I'm right-handed. You go, okay, well then I'm gonna pick the lesser of two evils, your left hand, because I'm gonna assume you can't slap as hard with that one. Ha ha, look how smart I am. That's how you all act. And at the same time, you know, none of you are actually proud of what you believe in. Ask a Trump supporter why they support Trump, and they're immediately going to be like, "Oh, so you voted for Kamala then, huh?" It's not what I said. I said, "Why do you support Trump?" Well, Biden. Can you believe Biden is the groceries and the gas prices and the jobs and the borders? Oh, we're so unsafe. We're so unsafe. There are multiple stories of Mexicans driving people, you know, driving over people. It's like they don't even bother to vary the stories. They just, oh yeah, this guy drove over that person and that guy drove over that person. We're being invaded by people who are going to run us over. It's so stupid. It's just stupid. I can't wrap my head around. Like, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, right? I want to say that you're just so sick of the standard politician, you know, white guy politician who makes all the same promises and blah, blah, blah. You're sick of that, so, you know, you're going with something different. I wish I could say that, but I can't. Thanks, Mo. I know. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Mo. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you. It's amazing how
She's glowing. She's glowing. Who else knows?
how the same stupidity exists, like it's the backbone of everything. You know, it's really weird. You know, but it's also telling too. It's like you don't have to. One thing they've convinced you of is that the conspiracy is some big, like, my ex-friend got all drunk one day and decided that that me and one of his intellectual buddies should have a discussion because he thinks that we're really gonna get along. It's funny. You don't do that. He wanted to fight, but so he finally makes it so that we're on this three-way call, and I'm like, all right, so what do you want us to talk about, dude? And he's like, oh, well, how about you talk about the miserable Palestinian conflict? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I think the Jays control the world. They control every aspect of society. They're the problem with everything. And you know, I mean, I don't know what else you like. They control the problem, and as soon as we can eliminate that problem, we eliminate the problem. And the guy's first response is, because I think they control the money, the media, the government, these multiple things, that it's too fractured. That's too many things for one group to control. That was his best argument he could come up with. And it's not like, he had that 20 seconds or so to think about it because I went first. So the first thing he came up with is it's too big for them to control all those multiple things. And I laughed at him. I was like, dude, that's a silly argument. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Of course, if you control society, those are just things that you use to control society. Like, those are just the weapons you use. Those aren't different entities. So then, it turns into, like, I say something about, like, he turns it into, no, he says that, well, you're being kind of racist. And I said, well, wait, they're not a race. And he's like, what do you mean they're not a race? Blah, 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 blah. And I go, dude, you can't convert to being black. I think that's what started. I said something about, this idea that they're a race and blah, blah, blah. But I don't care how much because I knew I was talking to a white guy. My buddy was a white guy. I said, no matter how much you might want to, there's nothing you can do to convert to being black. It's a choice. It's not something you're born with. It's not a race. And you got to always make this about race. He's looking for his way out with everything. And I can't remember exactly what the next point made was. Like, the next point was that they're a race and you can't discriminate against a race or something. But, like, it turned into this thing where he would say something he goes, no, get out, butter. You're not letting me finish. You're not. And I said, dude, this isn't like this. I know you're used to being white guy and you're in control here, but you're not in control. This is a conversation. This is supposed to go both ways. And of course, then I get hung up on. And because white guys don't like when you point that shit out. Like, if you're not racist, you don't have a problem talking about racist shit. I hate all the racism that exists. I also hate what black people have been turned into. I want to talk about this earlier, but I made my way back to it. But, like, when you look at shit like oh my god, I can't believe it. Fuck. Mind control. What was the mind control program called? MK Ultra. There we go. Brain fart there. Kind of funny, huh? When you look at the whole MK Ultra thing, like, you want to talk about like mind control. What's the best thing you could do? If you're a mind control program, what's one of the biggest flexes you could have? How about convincing the people that you don't exist anymore? Yeah, we got really good at all that mind control stuff, and we stopped it. Yeah, we just stopped doing it. That sounds like the government. That's what the government does.
You can't go to the moon anymore. So.
That's true. But that's what they did with all the weather control stuff too. They figured that out and then just threw it all away, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just it's so stupid. But MK Ultra, like, again, this isn't one of those things where it's some goofy guy's conspiracy theory. MK Ultra is 100% real. And you know, it's how Bobby Kennedy was killed. You know what? Let's do that. That'll be fun for a minute. Yeah. Let's look up good old Sirhan. Sirhan. Because that makes sense, right? That's not them making fun of us, is it? This guy had the same first and last name. His name was Sirhan. Sirhan. Have you ever met somebody named the same thing? First and last name?
If I did, it was like a James or, you know.
No, you didn't. That shit would stand out to you. James, you'd be like, fuck yeah, I met a James once. That shit was crazy.
James?
Blew my mind. Sirhan Bishara Sirhan, born March 19, 1944, is a Palestinian Jordanian man who assassinated Senator Robert F. Kennedy, a younger brother of American President John F. Kennedy and candidate for the Democratic nomination in the 1968 United States presidential election on June 5th, 1968. Kennedy died the next day at the Good Samaritan Hospital of Los Angeles. The circumstances surrounding the attack, which took place 5 years after John's assassination, have led to numerous conspiracy theories. In 1989, Sirhan told British journalist David Frost, "My only connection with Robert Kennedy was his sole support of Israel and his deliberate attempt to send those 50 fighter jets to Israel to obviously do harm to Palestinians." It's funny, I never heard any of this shit. I knew who Sirhan was and shit. But the Palestinian aspect of it was something I never heard of until I looked him up recently. Have you ever heard about his motivations or anything like that? Or that the idea that this man is trying to stop.
It looks like things are being backlogged and history's being rewritten
To fit.
to create a bad guy that isn't there.
Right. Some scholars believe that the assassination was the first major incident of political violence in the United States stemming from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Sirhan carried out the attack on the first anniversary of the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. I hate that it's called the Arab-Israeli War. It's not a war. It's Israel slaughtering thousands and thousands of people and then taking more territory than they had. Literally, that's it. I can't imagine they lost more than a few hundred people. Though it occurred at a time when the American public was overwhelmingly focused on the Vietnam War. Right. Had to be distracted by something. Why would we be so associated with the Vietnam War, but not this? Not the Israelis slaughtering Palestinians. Well, they do though. I mean, that's a big opium place. Now. On April 17th, 1969, Sirhan was convicted of first-degree murder, among other charges, and subsequently sentenced to death by gas chamber. In 1972, this was commuted to a life sentence in the aftermath of Furman v. Georgia. He is incarcerated at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility near San Diego. On August 27th, 2021, after 15 years of being denied parole by the local state board, Sirhan was granted parole by a two-person panel. Prosecutors declined to participate in or oppose his release in accordance with the belief of the Los Angeles County District Attorney George Garcon that the prosecutor's role ends at sentencing, and they should not influence decisions to release prisoners. On June 13th, 2022, California Governor Gavin Newsom blocked Sirhan's release on parole. He was denied parole again on March 1st, 2023. It's one of these great examples of when all the people that believe in like the Constitution and all that shit, it's all just fake bullshit. It's not real. It's fake bullshit to get you to believe in certain things. But all it takes is like, so the parole hearing, the whole jury of his peers, blah, 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 decides to let this guy go. And the governor steps in to block it. Good old Gavin Newsom, you know, one of the good old boys. Sirhan Bishara Sirhan was born into an Arab Palestinian Christian family in Mandatory Palestine in Jerusalem's Musara neighborhood, and became a Jordanian citizen after Jordan annexed the West Bank. According to his mother, Mary, Sirhan was traumatized as a child by the violence he witnessed in the Arab-Israeli conflict, including the death of his older brother, who was run over by a military vehicle that was swerving to evade gunfire. No, it wasn't. A military vehicle, an Israeli military vehicle, was swerving.
Did you hear that?
No, to evade gunfire. When Sirhan was 12 years old, his family immigrated to the U.S., moving briefly to New York and then to California, right with all that fucking money. He attended Elliott Junior High School, John Muir High School, and Pasadena City College.
Nobody's on the DVD rack. That might have been it. I'm sorry.
Shortly after the families moved to California, Sirhan's father, Bishara, returned alone to the Middle East. Standing 5'5" and weighing 120 pounds at age 20, Sirhan moved to Corona to train to be a jockey while working at a stable, but lost his job and abandoned the pursuit after suffering a head injury in a racing accident. Sirhan never became a U.S. citizen, instead retaining his Jordanian citizenship. Strange. Excuse me. As an adult, Sirhan changed church denominations several times, joining Baptist and Seventh-day Adventist Church, crazy weirdos. In 1966, he joined the esoteric organization Ancient Mystical Order of the Rose Cross, one of the Rosicrucian orders. Probably nothing to see there, huh? Well, let me look that up. The Ancient and Mystical Order Rosicrucis is a Rosicrucian organization founded by Harvey Spencer Lewis in the United States in 1915. Isn't it funny how back in that time frame,
So much was founded.
right, all these groups and things were founded that still exist today. They all have the same sort of weird symbolism and
His hat today, he goes, Mom, why does it say, was this hat made in 1911? And I said, no, it's a Chevy hat, dude. It says established in 1911. That's when Chevy was formed. Like, same time, that symbol
of course, yeah.
still exists posted today.
I mean, this shit. Yeah, that's just a normal symbol. Look at that. Chubby girl.
Yeah, pretty much. It's so,
It's a weird onk.
this sounds weird, but chemistry is
It has various lodges, chapters, and other affiliated bodies in several countries. It operates as a fraternal order in the mystical Western esoteric tradition. Harvey Spencer Lewis, in 1904, founded the Rosicrucian Research Society. How come nobody talks about the Rosicrucians anymore? They were such a big part of society back then. So many orders and all that were founded on them. And nowadays, if you say Rosicrucian to people, people are going to be like, what are you fucking talking about? Let's see. Hang on a second. Okay. Lewis was an advertising agent from New York and the founder of another group called the New York Institution for Psychiatry. Physical. What's wrong with me? For physical, that's physical, right? Fucking losing my mind, right?
Physical.
Yeah, I'm losing my shit. For physical research. He founded the organization after a trip to France, claiming that he had been initiated into Rosicrucianism there in what he called an old tower in Toulouse. He presented this as a revival of the original, partially mythical and ancient Rosicrucian order. I mean, like, this is real, right? This happened. So what are we talking about? Rosicrucianism is a spiritual and cultural movement that arose in early modern Europe in the early 17th century after the publication of several texts announcing to the world a new esoteric order. What? That's a lot of yada yada right there. Several texts? What is this? Wow. The Temple of the Rose Cross, Theophilus Schweigart Constantine's 1618. Look at that shit. What the fuck? I'm sure that was all. He's just drawing it for nothing. All this weird symbolism and shit. It's just all because it just happened to be the things that people drew back then. Wow. Yeah, this is going to take too long. I can't even get into this right now. So we'll have to come back tomorrow. Y'all have a wonderful day. Pedophiles, do yourself a favor. Kill yourself. Everyone else, go get your free download. Link is in the description. See ya.